Check in for a medical procedure these days, and you're likely to be connected to more measurement devices and wires than you ever imagined. Most of us assume they work, and that they work on all of us the same way. Dr. Kimani Toussaint from Brown University questions that idea. He's here to tell us about a problem he sees with pulse oximeters. They measure blood oxygen levels. He's working with Brown Technology Innovations and its partners to invent a solution, start a business, and improve patients' lives. Welcome to the Angel Nest University Innovation Network, where we profile the most exciting and important technologies from the world's leading universities. I'm David Hemingway. I'm a 5-time founder and now an active angel investor. And my mission here is to introduce the innovators and the businesses that are leading the way to the future. Melissa Simon is the Director of Business Development at Brown Technology Innovations, and so she's constantly on the lookout for great entrepreneurs from both inside and outside the Brown University ecosystem. Kimani Toussaint is the Senior Associate Dean for Research and Strategic Initiatives at the Brown School of Engineering, and Jenifer Perry is co-founder and CEO at Matilda Venture Studio, which is working with Kimani on a path to commercialization. Welcome to the Angel Nest, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Kimani, tell us about the issue with pulse oximeters, if you would.
Sure. So pulse oximeters are these very ubiquitous device that many people have at home, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, that measure blood oxygen levels, just like you mentioned earlier. The problem is that they don't do that well across all skin tones. In particular, folks who are heavily melanated, darker skin tones, tend to have an overestimation of their readings compared to the true baseline values. And of course, that has significant consequences when one is trying to treat health conditions, because some people suffer from silent hypoxia, in which case they don't know that they're suffering from some oxygen deprivation. And if the device doesn't tell them that they are, then that means that they can go untreated. That has very much significant consequences.
So these are the little things that go on your finger when you're in the hospital?
These are the little things that clip right onto your finger when you're in the hospital. And they became super popular at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic because hospitals needed to triage care. And so a lot of folks were sent home with thermometers to measure temperature, core temperature, as well as pulse oximeters to estimate blood oxygen levels.
And you can imagine the consequences of not getting that right. Melissa Simon from Brown Technology Innovations, what inspired you to get involved in this effort with Kimani?
Yeah, well, Kimani officially disclosed his lab's new optical approach to measuring pulse oximetry to our office in May of 2021, and it really took off on its own. I remember soon after being out socially with a friend who's a pulmonary and critical care physician with Brown's affiliated health system. And her first words were, "Oh my God, are you working with that engineer with the pulse ox? Everyone's talking about it." And then, press caught on, and every week Kimani was being contacted by a different press outlet wanting an interview. So this really was a dream situation for tech transfer. So it was a problem that, while it was previously published, it remained widely unknown and hiding in plain sight, and COVID really unearthed it. And Kimani's lab was perfectly aligned to come up with a solution. Kimani really understands the value of technology translation, and he's been a fantastic partner with our office to come up with the best paths forward. We work closely to ensure that we had the right intellectual property protections in place. He's able to get funding from Brown Biomedical Innovations to Impact, which is Brown's donor-funded internal translational research program, and that allowed him to further their device development and clinical validation. And then he worked with us to explore various commercial partners and pathways.
And I understand you've introduced him to one, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Kimani, tell us about your work in this area and what you think the solution might be.
Sure. So to better understand our approach to the solution, I'll just take a few seconds to just give you an overview of how traditional pulse oximeters work. And so here, when you have a traditional pulse oximeter device, you have two wavelengths of light, right? Typically red and infrared. And those wavelengths are non-invasive. They probe through your skin. And what's happening is that your blood has this protein molecule, hemoglobin, and it has oxygen bound to it when it leaves your heart, and then it provides oxygen to your organs and so forth. And then by the time on this return path to the heart, it loses that oxygen molecule and just becomes regular hemoglobin. So the red and infrared look for the differences in absorption between these protein molecules with and without oxygen. And then from there, it estimates through an algorithm the blood oxygen level that a person has, peripheral blood oxygen level. Now, for us, we've decided to add an extra knob, if you will, to this process where we're not just using just wavelength discrimination, but light has other properties. It's an electromagnetic wave, so it also has something called a polarization property. And we're attempting to use polarization to add a bit more selectivity to how that spectral difference between red and infrared gets picked up below the topical layers of your skin. And polarization, you can think of, a lot of people don't always think about polarization, but you can think of that as the electric field properties of light that are normally blocked out with polarizing sunglasses when you walk out on a sunny day. So integrating that type of technology into the pulse oximeter, we think gives us much more selectivity and more specificity to get into the true baseline signal that we care about.
Kimani, I think you told me that your wife had something to do with deciding to tackle this problem.
Absolutely. So she likes to remind me of this, as a matter of fact. We were at home during the early days, like everyone else, because it was shut down everywhere. And she's an epidemiologist, and she knows, of course, that I study optics. And she sent me this article. She said, "Have you heard of this problem with pulse oximeters?" And I was already familiar with pulse oximeters. We consider them very basic optical technology. And I read the article and I was stunned because this was 2020. And I was like, in 2020, this is still a problem. I find it hard to believe. So I started looking into it and did some more digging. And what started off as a side project became it started taking a bit of time in my lab to investigate. It's a very interesting, very significant problem, actually.
Melissa, tell us more about Brown Technology Innovations, BTI, the kinds of companies you get involved with, how you decide, and how you help them.
Sure. So we recognize that most tenure or tenure track faculty don't want to leave their roles within the university to start companies. So we explore different paths depending on the technology and the inventors. So in some cases, we may have a graduate student or a postdoc in the lab that's interested in entrepreneurship. And so we'll pair them with an accelerator program or a mentor to help them explore that pathway. And actually, we did that in this particular case with one of Kimani's postdocs. Other cases, it may make sense to partner with an established company to help take the technology forward. We really like the model that we have here with Jenifer and Matilda, where they bring in the business and the product development expertise, and we bring the scientific and technical expertise, and we form a really strong partnership to help move technologies forward towards commercialization. So Brown Technology Innovations is always on the lookout for investors, entrepreneurs, industry experts that we can partner with that can help us translate research and technologies out of the university. And so, this type of partnership can range from reviewing applications for our internal translational fund or providing mentorship to faculty and graduate students, all the way to stepping in and becoming the CEO of a new startup company. So anyone who wants to learn more or discuss should reach out to us and talk about opportunities.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to understand the partnership here because Melissa is heading up the BTI effort and you've got the information, but we all know that even the greatest technology in the world has to find a path to the market, right? So I think Jenifer's in charge of that. I'm really interested in hearing about Matilda Studio and Jenifer, how you do that.
Well, thank you. Matilda is thrilled to be partnering with Brown, with Melissa, with Kimani on this exciting and much needed technology. What Matilda aims to do is to find technologies in academic medical centers where the science is still relatively early. Likely there's been some patent protection filed, but where real opportunity exists. Then what we try to do at Matilda is bring a variety of attributes to the table to help advance the technology. So we come with a strong understanding of tech transfer in the process. There are 5 of us as co-founders with a lot of experience of bringing products to the market. So we bring special engineers that are needed for technology development. We come along with the IP Council, FDA connections, KOLs, clinical expertise, trial and IRB experience, and then a lot of connections in the industry. And so what we aim to do is to advance the technology to a place where we can transact, and in this case, get to a working prototype, which is pretty solid, that would hopefully be just brought into someone's current manufacturing pipeline that has medical device.
Yeah. So investors tend to be wary of three things about new medical innovations. They're F, D, and A. How do you deal with that? Is that something that you could help Kimani get through that process?
Yes, we have very strong connections with the FDA. We've worked with a lot of folks there on past technologies, and we keep those connections strong. We work with a variety of consultants too that help us in the medical device space to navigate that world.
So how do you see the path to commercialization for what I guess is going to be a new kind of device? Is that how it's going to manifest itself?
Well, I would hope that it would replace what is currently on the market, because this would be a device that works for all skin types. So, in my opinion, it would be a replacement of the current standard of care.
So would you see that being a license agreement, or do you think you'll actually manufacture widgets and sell them to hospitals? What's your thought about that?
We will not manufacture. I would assume that as we advance this technology further and get it to a really strong working prototype, that we would be able to do some type of a straight asset sale to a company that is a medical device developer.
Well, investors will like to hear that. Kimani, talk about the process of working with BTI in order to bring your idea to fruition. It sounds like the kind of thing that might not have happened without the amazing support.
Yes, absolutely. So typically, as a professor with a lab, we kind of get into a zone, and we're in our labs or we're in our offices, and we might get a discovery once in a while, and then we write a paper, publish it, and kind of that's it, and go to a conference. Melissa's office has been coaching a lot of us faculty to occasionally look up and think about how what we work on might have an entrepreneurial aspect to it. There might be some path to commercialization. They've encouraged us to at least have that conversation with them. And so I've taken them up on that offer through filing for patents, discussing different inventions and so forth in my lab. And that's led to other conversations. And this is actually where it's kind of nice, I guess, the size of Brown University as well, because they've been super easy to follow up with, even if I kind of email them off hours occasionally. So I have a habit of doing that as well. And they will come to the office or they'll come to the lab, meet with myself and my team, and then have a follow up. So that bit of sort of high touch, hands on approach has been super helpful, because some of the things that I may kind of take for granted, or I might not necessarily think of from a commercialization or entrepreneurial type viewpoint, they would ask those questions and make me think about it. So even to be able to connect to Jenifer and her team, I would not have even, thought about how to even go about doing that if not for BTI.
Kimani, did you ever envision yourself to be a CEO?
Oh no.
It seems like you're doing a great job. Melissa, when I was doing some research about university innovators, I was just amazed at the things that have come out of colleges and universities. I mean, vaccines and aviation innovations. I mean, so many of the things that we take for granted today. And it seems like that ecosystem now is getting bigger than ever. But I feel like you're focusing on a couple of key areas. And I guess that's really the way to build out expertise, right?
I do a lot of work at the biomedical engineering department, so looking at that from digital health and medical devices. On the biomed side, there's a lot of work going on in biology of aging and RNA, very strong engineering and computer science as well. Neuroscience is a key area for Brown as well. So, we really try to focus in on the areas where we have particular strength and numbers of faculty and students focusing on those particular topics.
And for those founders who might be listening, will you work with enterprises that are not necessarily born at Brown?
Yes. It depends on what they are looking to do. I'd say first and foremost, my primary role within the tech transfer office is to work with Brown's faculty, identifying research that could have potential commercial interest, working with our IP attorneys to put intellectual property in place as appropriate, and then trying to develop a path to commercialization to support Brown's faculty. However, we really go much further than that. And, our office is really trying to build an ecosystem both within and outside the university to support innovation and entrepreneurship. And we've seen a lot of momentum in the Providence area, particularly in life sciences, that we're really trying to build upon. So if there are entrepreneurs, investors, or companies that are interested in Brown, whether it's supporting technologies to get out of the university, or companies that want to engage with our faculty to take advantage of their expertise and do collaborative research, we're always open to any potential opportunities to work with outside entities or individuals.
So Jenifer, let's talk about this from the investor perspective, because it's very comforting for investors, right, to be working with something that has IP. And it seems like this whole ecosystem is just spawning tremendous opportunities.
And I will say from the outside that Brown has been an absolute joy to work with. It has been positive right from minute one. And I've worked with a lot of different medical institutions and tech transfer offices, and some are very, very challenging. And this experience has been great. And there have not been any challenges. And it was a very seamless process and very collaborative right from the start.
Melissa Simon, Jenifer Perry, Kimani Toussaint, Brown University, Brown Technology Innovations, and Matilda Studios. Thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You can find contact information for our guest today at our website, theangelnest.com, where you can also reach me if you have an interesting company or topic we should talk about. I'm David Hemingway. We produce The Angel Nest with help from Rob Higley and Charles de Montebello. He's at the controls at CDM Studios at the Art Deco Film Center building just west of Times Square in New York. Thanks for listening. Here's hoping my fellow investors and the founders they support find their next great venture. So long until next time.